Let's begin with our normal warm-up. Pause the video now. Make sure you show your work. Your job here is to find the slope of the line that goes through the points that are given. Pause the video. Remember that an equation for a line can come in three different forms. First, we had the slope-intercept form. That was y equals mx plus b, where m was your slope and b was your y-intercept. And to graph this type of form, you would first plot your y-intercept, and from there you would graph your slope by rising and running from that y-intercept. The second form was called standard form, and this one was graphed differently. For this one, you used intercepts. Remember, that's where your graph crosses the x and y axis. And so to find the x-intercept, you would set y equal to 0, and to find the y-intercept, you would set x equal to 0. Well, now we're on to our third form. That's called point-slope form. And that one gives you a point on the line and a slope of the line. This is what that one looks like. M is the slope, as it always has been. But this equation contains a point. x1, y1 is the coordinate pair of the point that's contained on this line. But be careful. Notice the y comes first in the equation. Don't mix those up. So this x1 is your x-coordinate of the point, and y1 is the y-coordinate of a point. This one will be graphed differently. But first, let's look at how we would write an equation in point-slope form. Here's an example. Let's look at example number 1. I have the point 4, 2, and I have the slope, which is a negative 5/3. When writing in point-slope form, y is always there, and a minus sign always follows. Your next job is to substitute in the y-coordinate of the point. That's a 2. The equal sign will always stand in between, and then m is the slope, and they gave us that, and it was negative 5/3. X will always be in your equation as well, with a minus sign following it, and x1 is the x-coordinate of the point that was given to you. And you have just written the equation in point-slope form. You're done. Let's try it again with example 2. Y is always written, and minus is always there. Next, you substitute in the y-coordinate. That's a negative 7. Then comes the slope, followed by an x with another minus sign, and the x-coordinate of the point, which is a negative 2. You're almost done. You should clean up your minus negatives. So this becomes y plus 7 equals negative 3/2 times the quantity x plus 2. Notice what it means when a plus sign shows up. It meant your y-coordinate was negative. Be careful if plus signs show up here, and make sure you're pulling out the appropriate sign of the point. Here are 3 more problems. I'll do number 3 with you, but I won't talk. You try to write ahead of me. And again, you should rewrite this because of minus and negative. You can either rewrite the whole thing or you throw little lines through there that indicate that it has become positive. Okay, you do the last two examples. Pause the video now. Let's move on to graphing. The number one thing to recognize is that you're actually in point-slope form. Once you realize that, set about graphing it. Pull out the coordinate pair that's contained in the equation and write the slope down. In this equation, my coordinate pair comes from the x-coordinate 3 and the y-coordinate 2. And your slope is right here. So that's a negative 3/2. You start by plotting your point. From the coordinate pair, do as the slope says. And in this case, it says to move down 3 and right 2. From these 2 points, you have enough information to graph your line. Let's try it one more time. For number 2, I need to pull out my x-coordinate. Well, that's contained right here. But it's very important to notice there's a plus sign here. The only way that could have shown up is if my x-coordinate was a negative 4. It's the same thing with the y-coordinate. Because a plus sign showed up, it had to be y minus a negative 1. So negative 1 is my y-coordinate. The slope is 2/3. Graph it by plotting the point negative 4, 1. And from there, go up 2 and right 3. Two points, one line. To end the video, you try these guided practice problems, graph them in point-slope form. Please ask if you have any questions about point-slope form or how to graph it. It's a super important equation of a line, and I don't think it gets very much attention because that silly slope-intercept for some reason gets all the attention. But this one you'll find is very handy when we need to write equations for lines, and that will be in our next video.